Heath could use the money from his 401k to either buy a house or use some as a down payment. Photo subjects are models. Getty Images / iStock photo. Dear Quentin, my husband no longer wants to be married to me. I am 61 and he is 51. In 2006, I left a job and used my 401k to pay off all of our debts. A couple of years later, he applied for and got a credit card in his name to buy an anniversary gift of a 3-stone diamond ring for me. And we started building debt again. Most read from MarketWatch. Once a cheater, always a cheater. I'm the beneficiary on my ex-husband's $250,000 life insurance. He's now threatening to change it. Is he in breach of our divorce decree? Bradley Cooper says caring for his father was a wake-up call to the caregiving crisis squeezing millions of families. Bond king Jeffrey Gundlach still sees a U.S. recession coming. Here's when. Nvidia just created a new multi-billion-dollar business from scratch. 30-year mortgage rate drops to a 7-week low in 2012. I quit work because I became disabled. He was in favor of me quitting for my health. I used my 401k for life expenses because doctors found a parasite behind my husband's eye. He was off work for a month. I sold my Jeep to pay our expenses. 6 months after quitting work, I qualified for Social Security disability insurance. With SSDI, I got only $500 less than when I was working. Last year, I sold another Jeep so we could pay off all our debt. As of next month, we only have our mortgage and his car payment. And now? We are getting divorced. In March, we were married for 20 years. Am I entitled to half of his 401k, which is currently valued at $275,000? How would that withdrawal work? He wants to give me his 401k in exchange for our house, which is worth $250,000. What do you think? He thinks I could use the money from his 401k to either buy a house or use some as a down payment. Is he trying to bamboozle me? Soon to be divorced in Wisconsin. Related, I'm torn. Is it creepy to give my 13-year-old daughter her late grandfather's iPhone number? Any contributions made to his 401k over the last 20 years would be deemed community property and, I assume, were his peak earning years. Any contributions made to his 401k over the last 20 years would be deemed community property and, I assume, were his peak earning years. MarketWatch illustration. Dear Soon, I have a question for you. Why doesn't your husband use the money from his 401k to either buy a house or use it as a down payment? As a general rule of thumb, people don't make grand gestures in a divorce unless it benefits them, and I'm just going to go out on a limb here, more than it benefits you. Wisconsin, as you probably know, is a community property state, so all assets contributed during the marriage are community property and, as such, would be divided 50/50 in a divorce. So any contributions made to his 401k over the last 20 years would be deemed community property and, I assume, were his peak earning years. You should already receive 50% of those contributions because that's the law in your state, and you deserve them because you liquidated your own 401k to pay for debts that were due, at least in part, to your husband's illness. You did a good thing. Now, it's time for him to return the favor, even if he does so unwillingly. Don't take my word for it, talk to your attorney and CPA. But since you asked, if you took your husband's entire $275,000 401k, you would have to pay income taxes on your withdrawals, so the divorce settlement should take that into account. If you gave him the house, he would walk away with a $250,000 asset that will, presumably, continue to increase in value. Tax obligations of 401k(s) when dividing retirement assets, the court is obligated to consider the tax implications to both parties, according to Karp Iancu, a law firm with offices across Wisconsin. It is the industry standard in Wisconsin family courts to discount the present value of retirement accounts, with the exception of Roth IRAs, by 20%. Dividing a 401k in a divorce is also a bit like dividing a pension and a bit like dividing an IRA, the firm adds. Like pensions, the account can only be divided with a special court order called a Qualified Domestic Relations Order. But like IRAs, they can be easily valued by simply looking at the balance on a current account statement. From your letter, you both contributed to a lifestyle where you were living above your means. And, yes, people often get into debt because, try as they might, they cannot make ends meet without putting some expenses on a credit card. Now that you are planning to live apart, you will get to see who is most able to live within their means. About that credit card, should your husband have taken out a credit card for a 3-stone diamond engagement ring after you cashed out your 401k before you were 59 and a half and incurred a 10% early distribution penalty? No. You both need to take accountability for that. Was that the real/only reason he took out a credit card? Probably not. If he continues to make risky financial decisions based on want rather than need, your divorce will not spell the end to his financial near misses. Previous columns by Quentin Fottrell. My father deliberately and hurtfully cut my late sister's 2 kids out of his will. How can I ensure they get their fair share? They left nothing except junk. My brother emptied our father's house. It stands empty years after his passing. What can be done? My brother and sister are villains. My siblings took control of my late mother's estate and won't reveal the contents of her trust. What do I do? Most read from MarketWatch why bond returns could hit double digits in 2025. I got seriously burned. My financial advisor took me for lunch, bought my kids gifts, and had me invest $500,000 in annuities. What should I do? My father deliberately and hurtfully cut my late sister's 2 kids out of his will. How can I ensure they get their fair share? Stocks are up 12% this year, but nearly half of Americans think they're down. What's going on? Is he trying to bamboozle me? My husband wants a divorce after 20 years. He offered his $275,000 401k in exchange for our $250,000 house.